When a woman ignores you, the first instinct for most men is to panic. They overthink every little detail. Did I say something wrong? Did I text too much? Did I not give her enough attention? And then they rush to fix it. They send long messages, they call repeatedly, they demand answers, and in doing so, they hand over all their power. But a stoic man, a man who truly understands his value, does the exact opposite. He stays calm, he doesn't let her silence disturb his inner peace. He doesn't let his emotions run wild. Because the moment you lose control of yourself, you've already lost control of the situation. You have to understand something very important here. Ignoring you is not always about you. Sometimes it's a test, sometimes it's about her mood, sometimes it's her way of trying to gain control. But if you react emotionally, you confirm her belief that she has power over you. And once she senses that, respect begins to fade. A man who gets rattled easily, who chases validation at the first sign of indifference, communicates that he doesn't have control over his own emotions. And if you don't have control over yourself, how can you ever be trusted to lead, to inspire, to protect, to be admired? This is why staying calm is your first weapon. Calmness isn't weakness, it's power. When you don't react, you send a clear message: I am not dependent on your attention to feel valuable. That simple energy shift immediately destroys her ego because most women are used to men crumbling the moment they get ignored. Most women expect endless chasing, begging, and reassurance. But when she ignores you and you remain composed, detached, and even a little indifferent, she starts questioning her assumptions. She begins to wonder why her usual tactics don't work on you. That confusion is what gives you the upper hand. Think about it. If you are calm when she ignores you, it makes her feel unsettled. She starts asking herself questions like, why isn't he affected? Why isn't he blowing up my phone? Why doesn't he care that I'm being distant? And those questions are exactly what shift the dynamic back in your favor. Because instead of you chasing her, she's now chasing answers in her own mind. You've taken her out of a position of control and placed yourself firmly in it, not by force, not by manipulation, but by the strength of your calmness. Now, this calmness is not about pretending. It's not about faking indifference while secretly obsessing inside. Real calmness comes from knowing your worth. It comes from understanding that your value does not decrease just because someone isn't paying attention to you. It comes from realizing that your life, your mission, your happiness cannot be dictated by one person's temporary behavior. When you embody that mindset, your calmness becomes unshakable, and that's when you truly become untouchable. Here's the truth. Most men don't want to hear women respect men who don't need them. That doesn't mean you don't care or that you act cold, but it means your emotional stability is not in her hands. When you remain calm when ignored, you show her that her approval is not your lifeline. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her want to give you more of it. The very moment she sees you won't chase, won't beg, won't crumble, is the moment her ego takes a hit. And when her ego takes a hit, her attraction rises. So the next time a woman ignores you, remember this: don't panic, don't react emotionally, don't over explain, don't beg. Just stay calm, let her silence be her choice, and let your calmness be your power. And that is how you begin to destroy her ego without saying a single word. When a woman ignores you, one of the most powerful things you can do is withdraw your attention immediately. You see, attention is like currency in relationships. Every time you text her, every time you call her, every time you chase after her while she's ignoring you, you're giving away your currency for free. And when something is given away freely and excessively, it loses its value. This is why when a woman pulls back and you keep pouring attention into her, you only inflate her ego. She sees that no matter how she treats you, you're still there, feeding her sense of control. But when you take your attention away, when you stop feeding her with validation, suddenly the dynamic shifts. Suddenly she realizes that her ignoring you no longer gives her power, it only creates silence. The mistake most men make is thinking that attention equals love, or that constant reassurance is what keeps a woman interested. But the reality is, women value what they have to work for. If she doesn't feel she can lose your attention, she won't respect it. This is why withdrawing it when she ignores you is not only a smart move, but also a necessary one. It creates space, it creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. When she realizes your energy is no longer pouring into her, she will feel the absence. That absence creates curiosity, and curiosity makes her wonder why she no longer has the power she once did. But here's the key: you don't withdraw your attention as a game. You don't do it just to manipulate her or make her chase. You do it because your attention is valuable and you refuse to waste it on someone who isn't appreciating it. This mindset shift is what makes the action powerful. Because women can sense the difference between a man who is withholding as a tactic and a man who is truly grounded in his self respect. When your withdrawal comes from a place of strength, it hits differently. It confuses her because she's used to men bending over backwards to get her attention back. She's used to being begged, reassured, and pursued. But when you simply pull back and give her nothing, she's left with herself, and that is often more powerful than anything you could say. And withdrawing your attention doesn't just affect her, it transforms you too. Instead of wasting time worrying about why she's ignoring you, you now have that energy back in your own hands. You can redirect it into your goals, your health, your friendships, your passions. And as you do that, you begin to glow differently. You look stronger, more focused, more fulfilled. And ironically, that's when she starts to notice. Because nothing bothers a woman's ego more than realizing the man she tried to ignore is actually doing better without her. The beauty of withdrawing attention is that it creates silence, and silence demands an answer. She will begin to wonder, why isn't he reaching out? Why isn't he chasing me? Who has his attention now? That uncertainty unsettles her ego. And when a woman's ego is unsettled, she can't ignore you for long, because the game only works when you play into it. If you refuse to play, she loses control of the board. So the next time a woman ignores you, don't chase, don't over-explain, don't beg for her validation. Withdraw your attention completely and let her feel the void. That is how you strip away her ego and make her realize the power she thought she had was only borrowed from you. When a woman ignores you, the strongest move you can make is to shift your focus back onto your mission and your lifestyle. This is the essence of masculine energy: purpose first, everything else second. Too many men lose themselves the moment a woman pulls away. They drop their routines, they neglect their goals, and they obsess over what she's thinking or doing. But here's the truth: the moment you make her the center of your world, you lose your power. Women are naturally drawn to men who are grounded in their purpose, men who live for something bigger than chasing approval. When you redirect your energy into your mission, not only do you rise, but she begins to feel the weight of what she's missing out on. Think about it. Your mission is what defines you. It's your career, your craft, your business, your fitness, your personal growth. When a woman sees that ignoring you doesn't derail you, but instead fuels you, she's forced to reassess her perception of you. Because deep down, women admire men who are focused, disciplined, and ambitious. They may test you by pulling away, but those tests are never about your words. They're about your actions. Do you crumble when she ignores you? Or do you double down on your path? That difference is what separates the average man from the one who gains her respect. Focusing on your mission is not about pretending you don't care. It's about truly living in alignment with what matters most. And when you start living with that mindset, something shifts in your energy. You walk differently, you talk differently, and people start noticing. You're no longer the man whose mood depends on whether she replies to your texts. You're the man whose mood is set by the progress he's making in his own life. That independence is magnetic. It confuses her because she expected you to chase, to beg, to prove yourself. Instead, she sees you growing, elevating, becoming more attractive without her input. The irony is, when you stop chasing and start building, you naturally attract more opportunities, not just with women, but in life. Your confidence grows because you're stacking wins. You're not sitting in silence hoping she notices you. You're making moves that are impossible not to notice. And when she eventually looks back, because she will, she'll see a man who didn't shrink when she ignored him, but instead became stronger. That alone flips the entire dynamic. This is also how you protect your peace. If you waste time obsessing over why she's ignoring you, you hand over your emotional power. But when you pour that same energy into your mission, your life expands. You become more disciplined, more fulfilled, more centered. That fulfillment makes you harder to ignore because no woman can dismiss a man who's clearly on the rise. And if she still chooses to ignore you, then she simply removes herself from the presence of a man she'll eventually regret losing. At the end of the day, ignoring you is her move, but how you respond is yours. And the most powerful response is to keep climbing. Let her silence be the fuel that pushes you further into your mission. Because when your life is full, when your purpose is strong, her absence isn't a loss. It's a reminder that your value doesn't come from her attention. It comes from the man you're becoming. That is how you destroy her ego without saying a word, by showing that her silence cannot compete with your mission. When a woman ignores you, the last thing she expects is for you to remain calm, collected, and completely unbothered. Most men lose their composure instantly. They start panicking, overthinking, sending long messages, or asking what they did wrong. They let their emotions run wild, and in doing so, they hand over all their power. But when you stay calm and composed, you do the exact opposite. You take away the fuel that her ego thrives on. Ignoring you is often a test, a way to see if you'll lose control and chase her harder. But when you don't give her that reaction, when you remain steady and emotionally balanced, you confuse her and at the same time earn her respect. Calmness is power. It shows you're not desperate, you're not needy, and you're not dependent on her validation to feel good about yourself. This is why remaining composed is such a devastatingly effective move. It sends a silent message: I don't need you to feel secure, I don't need you to validate me, and I won't let your silence dictate my emotions. That is what truly destroys her ego, because her ignoring you only has power if it unsettles you. The moment you show that it doesn't, the entire game collapses. And this calmness doesn't mean you suppress your feelings or pretend you don't care. It means you master yourself. You acknowledge what you feel, but choose not to let it control your actions. That discipline makes you stand out because most men can't do it. They react emotionally, they break down, and they expose their neediness. But you're different. You refuse to give her that satisfaction. You stay cool, focused, and confident in your value. That's the kind of strength women admire, even if they don't admit it openly. When you stay calm, you also communicate something else: options. Women know that men who panic when ignored usually have nothing else going on. Their whole world is wrapped up in one woman's attention. But men who remain composed are the ones who are grounded, secure, and confident, because they know they are valuable with or without her, and that triggers something deep inside her. She begins to wonder, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? Is he talking to someone else? Has he moved on? That doubt eats away at her ego, and eventually it forces her to question her behavior. The truth is, calmness is one of the rarest qualities in a man because it can't be faked for long. If you're truly secure in yourself, it radiates naturally. You don't need to say anything, you don't need to prove anything. Your silence, your patience, your composure, they speak louder than any words. And ironically, this lack of reaction often pulls her back faster than anything else you could try. Because while she expected to control your emotions, she ends up realizing that her tactics hold no power over you. So when she ignores you, breathe deeply, center yourself, and hold steady. Don't over explain. Don't overreact. Don't chase. Just remain calm and live your life as if nothing has changed. That strength will not only protect your self respect, but also send a powerful signal she can't overlook. That is how you break her ego, by staying calm when every other man would crumble. When a woman ignores you, one of the most powerful things you can do is embrace silence and let her come to you. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It communicates strength, patience, and discipline in a way that words never can. Too many men fall into the trap of thinking they need to talk their way back into her attention, to explain themselves, to seek answers, or to somehow prove their worth through endless communication. But what they don't realize is that by doing so, they strip themselves of their mystery and give away their power. A man who truly values himself doesn't chase. He waits. He allows space to work in his favor because he knows silence creates curiosity. When you stop reaching out, she begins to feel the void. In the beginning, she may enjoy ignoring you. It gives her a temporary ego boost, a sense of control, and the illusion that you're sitting there desperate for her acknowledgement. But as time passes and you remain silent, she starts to wonder what's happening. Did he move on? Did he stop caring? Is he talking to someone else? Those questions begin to play in her mind, and that's when the silence starts working against her. What she thought was power turns into doubt. And the longer you stay silent, the more that doubt grows into curiosity, and eventually curiosity grows into action. Silence also sends a clear message that you are not emotionally dependent on her. Women respect men who can control themselves, who don't fold under emotional pressure, and who refuse to beg for scraps of attention. By staying silent, you're showing her that her ignoring you doesn't shake your foundation. That level of self-respect is rare, and because it's rare, it's attractive. It positions you as the man in control of the situation without ever raising your voice or demanding anything from her. And here's the beauty of it: silence flips the dynamic completely. Instead of you being the one waiting for her message, she becomes the one checking her phone, wondering if you're ever going to reach out again. Instead of you wondering about her, she begins to wonder about you. That shift alone destroys her ego because it proves she doesn't have the control she thought she had. Silence creates a mirror, and in that mirror, she sees her own behavior reflected back at her. She realizes she can't ignore you forever without risking losing you for good. But silence only works if it's backed by genuine self control. If you say nothing but secretly obsess, stalk her social media, or wait around for her like your life depends on it, the energy will show. True silence is about detachment, it's about continuing to live your life, focusing on your mission, and letting her absence make no difference to your progress. That authenticity is what gives silence its power. Eventually, silence becomes louder than words. A man who can hold back, who can sit with the discomfort without reacting, sends a stronger message than any argument ever could. Women are used to men begging, chasing, and over communicating. They're not used to men who can simply go quiet and let them feel the consequences of their choices. That contrast alone unsettles her ego and forces her to think twice. So the next time she ignores you, don't react emotionally, don't over explain, and don't beg for clarity. Just go silent, let her feel the weight of that emptiness. Because when you do, you reclaim your power and she'll eventually have no choice but to come back to you on your terms. That is how you destroy her ego, through the undeniable power of silence. When a woman ignores you, the natural reaction for most men is to try harder. They send longer texts, they over explain, they chase with more energy, and they end up rewarding disrespect with more effort. But what you must understand is this: respect is the currency of attraction. If you give your attention freely, even when she ignores you, you're teaching her that she can treat you poorly and still have full access to your time and energy. And once that dynamic is set, you'll always be the one bending over backwards, while she sits comfortably knowing she doesn't have to put in the same effort. That is why the golden rule is simple: reward respect with respect and answer ignorance with distance. You see, when a woman feels like she can take you for granted, she begins to lose respect for you. And when respect disappears, attraction follows right behind it. This is why you should never chase after someone who is showing you indifference. Instead, let your actions demonstrate that your attention is valuable, and it will only be given where it is genuinely appreciated. When she ignores you, don't send another text. When she gives you cold responses, don't try to warm them up with endless explanations. Instead, show her that your energy is earned, not owed. That shift in behavior sends a message louder than any argument you could ever make. I respect myself too much to beg for someone who doesn't respect me. And here's the paradox: this refusal to reward her disrespect is what makes her reevaluate her behavior. When you don't chase, when you don't double down on effort after she ignores you, she begins to notice that she has no control over you. That's when her ego takes the hit. Because deep down, women expect men to chase them, especially when they pull away. They expect you to explain, to fight for their attention, to prove your worth. When you don't play into that script, you become different. You confuse her because your response doesn't fit her expectation. And in that confusion, her ego begins to crumble. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about playing childish games or trying to manipulate her. It's about setting a standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. If she shows you attention, warmth, and respect, then of course you reciprocate. You meet her energy with your energy. That creates balance. But the moment she pulls away and ignores you, your responsibility is not to chase after her, it's to protect your self respect. Because the truth is, if you don't respect yourself, no one else will. By rewarding only respect and refusing to feed into ignorance, you also start to filter the people in your life. The ones who truly value you will step up and match your effort. The ones who don't will fade away. And that's exactly how it should be. This mindset not only shifts the power dynamic with women, but it also changes the way you handle relationships in every area of your life. You begin to operate from a place of strength, not desperation. You begin to attract people who genuinely want to be there instead of holding on to those who treat you like an option. So the next time she ignores you, remind yourself of this truth: you owe her nothing when she gives you nothing. Don't chase, don't beg, don't reward her ego with more attention. Instead, reward respect with respect and withdraw from anything less. That's not only how you destroy her ego, it's how you protect your own dignity. And when you live by that standard, you stop being the man who gets ignored and you become the man who is always respected,